Welcome to Big Money Stylist, episode 20 already, guys. Holy shit.
Can you believe that? I feel like we literally just started yesterday, and every time it's like another week, it's like episode 18, 19. I'm like, 20?
20?
When did we get to double digits?
At 10.
you fucking dick. Oh, so Val is full of sass this morning, which I appreciate. I don't know if you know this, Val. I actually went through and I was looking. You know how often I check the podcast to see how we're doing.
Right.
Last I checked, I think we're back up at top 50 again.
Nice.
And then
in all of iTunes?
All of iTunes, top
That's
50
so crazy.
in 500,000 different podcasts. It's insane.
No big deal.
Just saying. Along with that, we are still number one in fashion and beauty, which is amazing. Yes. But I think one of my favorite things that I noticed, I was looking through our episodes, and you know how like if there's a lot of like cursing and stuff, they'll like mark you explicit.
Do we have a couple of those?
Almost all of them are explicit.
Yes, so proud.
It's literally like explicit, clean. I'm like, oh!
We made a clean one.
I sent it to Danielle. She's like, but why does it say that? I was like, we probably cursed a lot. She's like, well, why is it clean? I'm like, we might have reeled it in for a couple episodes. You're welcome.
I'm going to go ahead and blame the host of the show on the explicit tag mark, but I like it.
I will fully own it. It's not my fault. That fuck just happens to be in my vocabulary, and I use it frequently, and I own it. So, episode number 20. Holy cow. Hot darn. Is that better? What is it that Jill says? She says, shiz. Holy shiz.
She used to always say like different curse words that were like fake curse words. And then, you know, she worked with us for like a month and now the real ones come flying out.
We change people when they come inside of DKW and BMS, but it's cool. It's all for the better. So officially episode number 20. And every single week we go through a different topic. It starts with, I'm like,
power.
I'm like, what the fuck does it start with? It starts with power, then production, then profit, then protection, which is always my favorite topic.
I know. But protection gets spicy.
Protection is very spicy, and I think that's what's so fun about it. So today we are going to be going over profit, which I really like today's topic, though. I'm very excited about this. We just came off of, I call it Christmas week, guys. And basically, it's our BMS intensive classes. Those are our very small classes. There's only 20 artists inside of them, and it's 2 days long here in Laguna, 3 weeks of pre-training. If you're wanting to attend one, you can go to bigmoneystylist.com. We are completely sold out all the way up until September, but if you fill out the application, you can and will be put on the wait list. So, with that being said, I call them Christmas weeks because they're my favorite weeks ever. It's just so
They're
exciting.
amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
Last week was like really cool too because it was a super energetic group that came first, and then the group after it, like we were saying, they started out really like closed off and like quiet, but their momentum just was so fast and steady, like moving in an upward motion. And I was like, dang, by the end of the week, I was like, this was such a rad week.
Oh, it was so good. And there, I feel like, was a lot of stuff that actually happened inside of not Christmas week, but our last BMS intensive, number 17, that we sat there and we're like, we got thrown some curveballs. Like, yeah. But this was fucking cool. It was such a great week. So I feel like always coming off of Christmas week and then coming into the next podcast, I'm like,
so much to talk about. So much fire.
So much has happened. Along with, I'm going to, of course, have to say this at least once. Those of you guys know, if you've been listening from the very beginning, we used to have a different host who's not as good as this host, obviously. Duh. But his name is Garrett J. White, and he runs a company called Wake Up Warrior. He's been running it for 7 years now, I believe it's been going on. And in that, it's been exclusively for men and helping them basically just get their fucking shit together and live a balanced life across the board of 4 categories, being body, being balance, and business. You guys should take a look at a website called wakeupwarriorwoman.com because officially Wake Up Warrior is not just for men anymore. There is a woman edition. Guys, since I came onto this team, I've been dreaming of this. I've been putting a bug in Garrett's ear. I'm like, Garrett, think about it. We could do this. We could do this. Obviously, I want to be a trainer for this is one reason I keep saying it. And it's happened. I'm a trainer for Wake Up Warrior Woman.
Woohoo!
So it's insane. But tickets, I mean, we're only selling 400. And I mean, they are going fast. So if you want to consider going, you definitely should. So
jump on it now.
There's just so much. So today's main topic is profit, which generally always comes back to money. So Val, what is profit to you when you hear that word?
I think it's the manifestation of all the hard work that you've done. So whether that is like monetary or freedom, like time-wise, whatever that is. But it's, to me, the manifestation of your hard work.
Oh, and that's perfect. And that's not always exactly money. I feel like people think it, but at the same time, I feel like it's freedom, it's time, it's being able to just whatever the fuck you want. Like, that's a huge profit.
Yeah. I feel like that's when people come into our classes and they always share their why. When they're sharing their why, it's always a different answer when it's coming from the people. But really, the underlying message of every single person's why is they want more time. More freedom to have more time to spend it with whomever that they're wanting to.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing that I've always noticed inside of, BMS and everything we do is when we start bringing up money, because money's a very taboo topic.
I know.
I mean, people don't like to talk about it because it's just like, we're raised, I feel, in a culture that talking about money and saying how much money you make, you're super trashy.
Yeah. Like you need to be humble and not talk about that.
Yeah. And then it almost makes the people who are working super hard and high producers, it makes them feel weird, like, oh, I can't. And we've seen it inside students when they're like, oh, I make this amount of money. I'm like, fucking own it.
You yelled out from the rooftops.
You
please.
should be. Do you want a microphone or a megaphone? I'll get you one. I can find anything anywhere. I actually think we have one right outside this room. So
we do.
I've used it before. I got in trouble for it. It's cool. It's really good times here, I swear. But so why do you think money is such like a taboo topic to talk about?
Well, I think some of it is that you've been taught like from your parents or like, I don't know if you went to like church and stuff, but it's very much like you don't talk about that because it's not, it's just you need to be like more modest and humble. And it seems too like braggy when you speak about it. But I think a lot of it is people like are liars. And that's what like we're finding out. Like people don't like live in the truth, so they don't want to like talk about it. And I've noticed people who's not from like our programs and stuff, but that talk about money, the more that people like talk about money, I'm always kind of like, I wonder if you're like actually living that life. So I just feel like it's taboo, one, like church-wise. It's been like in our society that it's like kind of like you were saying earlier, trashy, or it's like, just be humble. You don't talk about that. But that people aren't like living in their truth. Like they're not really like saying what they're making.
I feel like it's almost like all of the fashion bloggers that we see and a lot that we know that they're like, you look at them and you're like, oh, expensive clothes and shoes, they must have money. And really, they're literally like draining themselves dry trying to pay for this shit to put up some kind of front to make it seem like.
Taking pictures with the tag still on and then returning the clothes the next day. We know who you are.
Oh my God, do people really do that?
Yes.
Holy shit. I mean,
that's why when we bought our fancy shoes and they were like, if you take these out of the store, like on designer stuff, it's non-refundable. Like you can't bring it back. And I'm like, oh my God, do you think we're retarded fashion bloggers who do that? Like, I'm actually going to wear these shoes right now when I run out.
I'm borderline offended you think I would do that. Now, have I worn clothes with tags on it? Yeah, because I was too dumb to take off the damn tag and I forgot.
Every BMS class.
I swear, every single class we have at some point, someone is like, Val, Jill, Ani, you didn't take a tag off. And it's like, you're correct. Could you
take it off for me, please?
Please help a sister out. Don't just point it out and then walk away from me, you asshole.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, though. But it's so true. I never even thought about it in like the religion aspect of it's so taboo to like tell people anything like that. So I love that you brought that up. Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining me.
Hello, welcome.
So Danielle, I'm going to ask you a question.
Let's do it.
Why? First off, your hair looks extra good. You color it?
I washed it. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, it's something different. It looks good.
Yeah, thanks.
Money. Why do you think talking about money is forever been such like a taboo thing to do?
I don't know if it's taboo, but it definitely is in our industry a little bit because it's always all about the art, And I think that it's hard too as a hairstylist. There's always like, I was talking to in a last class, I'm like, hairstylists in my mind have always been kind of looked down upon. And I don't know why that is, and even we start to kind of believe that story. And so nobody wants to really like somebody who's willing to charge a little bit more or kind of like own their skills and their power. And they're like, well, I'm going to charge X, Y, Z. People are like, oh, no, they don't. I guarantee they don't charge that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't think it's a bad thing to talk about money. And even in our classes, like at the end of the classes, we have them kind of stand up and state like what their goals are to make dollar amount before the end of the year. And it's such an empowering thing. And so many of the women are like nervous to get up and just state that. But it's cool because when you put a dollar figure on it, it forces you to level up. It just does. Like if you set a goal and you're like, okay, in 6 months, I want to make this. Like everything about you as a human being will level up. Like, because we always tell people, I'm like, you can't just like randomly like raise your prices. I mean, I guess you can, but for me, when I'm raising my prices, I'm like, okay, how can I better serve the client? How am I going to up my skills behind the chair? And I think it just by raising your prices and talking about money, I don't know. For me, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like you have to do that to get to the next level.
Well, and I don't think for any of us it's considered bad because it's something that's just so common to us.
Yeah.
But I've seen all of the students when they come in, because we release assignments, they have literally 3 weeks of pre-training before they even come and see us live in Laguna. And the minute the assignment for money comes out is when I start getting message after message after message. And they like panic because we've been taught as a society, like, you don't tell people what you make.
Right.
You don't talk about it. It's considered very like trashy. That's what we were talking about earlier. Like, it's just considered trash. You just don't do that. But here inside BMS, it's something that we've made so common, and I love that. But I will say, definitely day 2, that's where we start bringing in the money talk. You can tell the students are kind of like, oh, do I have to say it? I'm like, yes,
I think
do.
it's because it's a very vulnerable place to be. To be like, yeah, this is what I'm actually making. And for me, like, there's been times where I'm like, oh, that's what I'm making. I'm like, God, like that should be better. You know, so, and it's not like I said, it's not like we're going around like flaunting, guess what, I made this, but we are in the network because it's more of like pump you up, like, good job, like, here's where I'm at, or, you know, and that kind of thing. So it's like when we talk about the numbers, I feel like we're probably the only hair education company where we require people to
the numbers show our results.
Yes.
So that's why we enjoy talking about it, because it shows the results that our students are getting, and then it's like upping the game for everyone. Like, oh, if she can do it, then I can do it. Well, if they're doing it, we can do it, you know, so.
Right.
And that's absolutely perfect. And so let's actually talk about some results then, because we've seen in the past few classes of BMS Intensive, these girls have been dropping some, I mean, serious numbers coming in. One of our students, Mary,
I remember her like so clear when she came to her. I'm not sure if you were in there when Garrett was doing the training, when it was the first group that we actually did during the BMS Intensive, where we broke down their money of like dollars per hour, dollars per client, dollars per day. And she was like in tears when she shared hers, because she realized like, and she's a single mom, like she's providing for a daughter on her own, like the baby daddy's in another country, like not even part of the picture. So I just like felt her pain so bad, but she was in tears because she was making less than $9 an hour.
Wow.
She was
working her butt off.
Wow.
And I just like, I remember feeling for her. So like, oh my gosh, like we got to change this woman's life. Like, you know, and then she came back to this last class as her repeat class. And
do you remember when she took her first BMS Intensive?
It was in October, I want to say.
Of 2016. I think it might have been a little before Mastermind started.
It was in March.
Last March?
Yeah.
So March 2017 is when she took her first BMS Intensive, and then she came back 1 year later. Val, do you want to say what she's making?
Yeah. She's
not $9 an hour, that's for sure.
Nope.
Her average is between $89 to $120 an hour.
Wow, that's so crazy in like a year. And if you don't force somebody to look at the numbers, how long are they going to be going, sweating and crying and wondering why they can't make ends meet at $9 an hour? And in their mind, they're thinking, well, I'm actually, you know, I charged $200 for this. And you're like, but if you break it down.
Yeah, per hour, like what you're doing. And that's what I love like about it, because I'm not like, like you were saying when you first got here, like how we're just artists and we don't know, it's just about the art and stuff. But once I got into like the numbers and you could see it, that's how you make like amazing like stepping stones to like where you want to go. And had she not, sweet little Mary, not known, oh my God, I'm freaking making $8 an hour. This is not going to cut the mustard for me and my daughter and the life I want for us. And then now every decision she's made since then has like gotten her on this path to like make more. And now I was like, I've never been more proud when someone stood up and like said their number. I'm like, oh my God, Mary, we did it. And she's like, we know. But I'm just like, I felt for her beyond.
I think people always say like we're too much, and we're like, not always, but we've been called too much, or we've even been gone to as far as being called a little bit of bullies. And we're like, if we're fucking bullies that give people those kind of results, I'll take that title any day of the week.
And I think at the end of the day, because Val and I were actually recently called bullies inside of a class, because here's the deal, like we tell people, I always tell them, I'm not here to feed into the story that you've been telling yourself for so long. If you're coming to BMS and you've paid $4,000 to attend this class, you've gone through 3 weeks of mandatory pre-training assignments every single day. You've flown out to California. We've had people come from like Norway, from Canada, I mean Alaska, from far places. Like you came all the way out here.
Yeah, just commit.
Yeah, you need to commit. We need, not that we need something from you, but you need something from yourself. And if I sit here and keep patting you on the back for doing everything you've been doing that's gotten you literally nowhere, which is why you're here now, that doesn't serve you. It doesn't help you.
Right.
But no one's used to that. It's very different in the industry. We're very like, you're doing great. It's fine. Like, no, that doesn't work.
But I think, too, you should go back to, like, what a particular girl left our class, but because it also isn't going to serve our entire group.
Yeah.
It ruins the whole dynamic because one person is like, no, like, it's not, you know what I mean? They're not willing to put in they're not willing to cut the bullshit stories, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So. And that's something, you guys will definitely be hearing that story next week inside of Protection, because that was one of the, I think we had spoken about protection inside of class, and one of the artists literally asked me, she's like, can you just explain it more? And the next day I'm like, there it is. So we'll definitely be talking about that one. But another artist, jumping back to like the money numbers, Katie, one of our artists came in and told us that she took her very first NBR client December 28th. On average, at that point, before NBR, she was making like $7,000 a month. She came here a month ago. So 4 months later, she's making $20,000 a month. That's it in 4 months.
Those are results, people.
Like that, and if that doesn't speak for itself, like that's why we push so hard and we want so much for all of our students, because there's literally proof that when you commit and when you do the work, you get the profit from it.
Right.
That blows my mind.
I recently got an email from an old student who went to another similar education method, and she said,
I was CC'd on this email. I know what you're speaking of.
She said, she's like, after she actually sent me an email and was like, I have to apologize basically for being a jerk. But she said, she basically was like, I went to this other class and I couldn't believe like they were just sending people away. And she's like, because I took MBR and I took BMS and I know how much work goes into it basically. She's like, and I left feeling like there's no way that these people attending their class are going to be able to do this. There's no way. And she basically just said, I'm like, I just want you to know like that MBR has impacted my career on a huge level. So even students in the past who are not even in our mastermind, they still, if they're using the tool, I know are having success. Even people back in my Utah days that want to call me an asshole all day long, I know that what they're using, this skill, is producing more for them. And if they want to have an ego about it and be like, blah, 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 I have to come to grips and be like, it's cool because I know that it's bringing in more profitability for you. And even if you don't like me, I don't give a shit. I'm just kind of like, my mission was like to really share that tool. Yes. You know, and so I'm like, even though you're not in my little circle, I don't care. I still know that at least I have like this little peace of mind thinking like, at least I know you're producing more for yourself.
Absolutely. So. And I've always said it before and time again, I'm literally proof that this entire system works, because when I came to BMS, it would actually, May 19th is 2 years. Exactly. Did you realize since the very first May 19th? I feel
like I've known you for 10 years.
I know, it seems like it. But yeah, May 19th is the first ever day one of BMS 2 years ago. Like that's so amazing to me. But it's crazy to even think back, because I was just a student then. And at that time, I was making $4,000 a month, which some people might hear and they're like, that's great. Like, no, it wasn't. I was working 12-hour days, 6 days a week. It was not my best life. It was not great what I was doing.
That's what people don't realize about hairstylists is like you can brag all day long, maybe making even $10,000 a month, and they're like, but I worked 70 hours a week and I have no life. And it cost me $8,000 just to stay in business. Congrats. You know what I mean? So we've got to really like flip that. We've really got to like bring this numbers game and accountability to our industry and not just make it about the art, because the art is no longer fun if everything left in you is being like sucked away. You know what I mean? The art is, and I've experienced that, and every stylist has the burnout phase where the art is no longer fun because you're not knowing your numbers.
Absolutely. And I went, and it took me literally 8 months to go from making $4,000 a month, 12-hour days, 6 days a week, to 3 days a week, 3 clients a day. So it was literally 9 hours a day. So what is that? 27 hours a week I was working, making $20,000 a month. And that's why I always tell our students, I'm aware of what this program does because I'm living, breathing proof that this shit works. But my results, my profit came from pure commitment to the entire program. And I've always said, Garrett and Danielle said, jump. I'm like, how high? They're like, do this. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm definitely going to do it. It was just
right.
That's why I'm here today for some reason, but it so works. And Val, I know for you, you were not always the #1 fan of tracking numbers.
No, that was not fun.
You know what numbers I like? I like the numbers where you're like, okay, like recently we're expanding the salon. And I'm like, okay, if we have 8 chairs, like how many clients do we have to get in the door? I like doing numbers where I can like see the overall picture. In 6 months, if we pump ads and if we do this, we should be able to make this. Those are the kind of numbers I like.
Well, now I like it because before I'm just like, oh, I don't want to sit. It's like doing bills and like paying them.
Yeah,
like,
that's not fun. No.
But now that like I keep track on everything, like I'm enjoying entering my spreadsheet like every day. And I got my spreadsheet last month, and I felt like I wasn't in the salon a ton because we had a lot of events. We had like our boot camps, our like live events. So I took less clients, and I just pulled up my spreadsheet because I couldn't remember off the top of my head. Please hold.
Radio silence, nice.
I was gonna go.
And it was $38,000 in 1 month.
Oh, can you be my boss?
And that's, I mean, tips and like the services and stuff, but that's what I did in like 1 month.
Living the dream life.
Man, I was like,
Sounds like
so freaking pumped. I'm like,
See,
this
and
shit works.
Don't you think too? Now you're like, oh, okay, like you can see like the bigger picture and like everything, and now like numbers.
Oh,
I
totally.
mean, you've always
And I'm
seen
not-
the bigger picture. But
I'm not overwhelmed too. Like we have more BMS classes back to back, and like I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do clients, but I can literally look and say, okay, this is how many clients I need to still do to maintain this. I can I just
Right.
have like a very clear cut game plan how to keep up
Right.
and how to move forward as well.
But if somebody would have showed you that number, even like, let's go back to 2 years ago when you first started for me.
There's no way I would have
you
ever
just like
believed that I would.
shadoobied your pants right there?
For sure.
That's Val's favorite word.
Shadoobie.
No, but like it's interesting too, because like when we're teaching and people want to come in and they want like a blueprint or a game plan, or they literally want us to be like, here's how to make this kind of money tomorrow, and like pass it over. And if you bombard them with too many details, it's like, for me, I go into like shutdown mode.
Definitely,
And
I'm
my
that
brain's
same
like,
way.
I cannot do it. It's for those people. It's not for me.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like you kind of have to, I always tell people, just entertain with where you're at and where you want to go, one step at a time. Like just look at your numbers where they're at and
Yeah.
be like, make realistic goals and say, okay, I want to get here. And then you get there and then you're like, I want to get here. And then you get there and I want to go here. And it just keeps progressing. And then you can look back a year, 6 months, 2 years, and you're like, holy shit. But if you don't set those numbers, realistic goals in which you think you can hit, you won't get there. And so it's
Right.
not that scary. You just have to be like, I want to go here. And all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I did it.
I know.
And
What's
then
my next goal?
And
I need a new
right?
one.
And then literally all the stuff that makes you so scared, like building, even like being a part of like building the whole brand and the tribe and everything. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is like the next natural step. And it's like, here we go. And like, I'm sure none of us even figured like this would be possible. You know what I mean? We're just like, we're just
Definitely not.
hairstylists and we're looking to inspire, and all of a sudden we're like, no, we're looking to fucking change the game based on results and numbers. We're not just looking to inspire.
And that's why even now I look at BMS and where we're sitting at now. And when I first came on 7 months ago, there was like 30 people inside of Mastermind. Now we're rolling at 170. And by the end of the year, it's going to be 500 people in a year.
an
And, like,
army.
That
like
is an army.
It is. We
Of
are
badass
taking
women
over
and
the
a
world.
few men.
And a few men. If that could be our new tagline, that's what we need on the jackets, Danielle.
Oh, those
A group of badass women and a few men.
human.
But it's crazy. Even when we look, we're like, holy cow, like BMS has grown so much in
Right.
7 months. And now
Right.
we're looking to hire on more trainers and more staff to like start with all the students that we have, because we're like, okay, well, Val and I, our buckets we have a very large capacity, but not 500 people's worth. Like, we officially
You
need
got
more
this.
I can do it all. Don't you worry.
I like when you got the email and somebody thought you were not a real person.
Oh my, I would, you know what? I'm actually going to discuss that for like 10 seconds.
You should.
I'm going to read you her response.
It's
I'm
not
gonna-
good.
I'm going to address that one right now.
This is so juicy.
Her name's Nicole. You're a real dick. Let me start off with that. I'm a stand by it. So she asked me a question. Her question was, are you turning away artists who aren't making a lot of money? And my response was, hey, I started BMS off as a student, and when I did, I was only making $4,000. We have students that have made even less than that. I said, it's not about how much money you're making now, it's about willing to do the work. Apparently, my response was not good enough for her. I feel like I addressed your question. Like,
yeah, you felt like that was super personable.
I came in super poor. Like, what more do you want? Me, the lead trainer, came in broke as fuck, and I made something out of it.
Was she saying the class was too expensive? I don't get it.
She was
No.
thinking she wasn't going to get accepted because she doesn't pay, like she doesn't
Make
make enough
enough
money.
money.
And if there was a requirement that way, and Ani's like
Oh,
saying,
okay.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I came in poor.
Just throw her a few emoji hearts, Ani.
She's not getting 0 hearts from me.
Okay, let's hear the
So
response.
that was my response to her. Like, hey, I came in working this
Yeah.
many days, this many hours, this is how much I made. Like, I'm like, it's not about how much money you make. We're just here to flip the entire industry over.
Yeah.
And her response to me was, okay, that's great, but it appears you're sending me pat responses to my queries. And since I'm not getting a person responding to me, I think I'll contact the salon again.
We always send automated responses like that.
I'm like, what? And she's like, I'll contact the salon again, blah, blah, blah. I read your response twice to be sure I was actually hearing nothing from you personally. Kind of disappointing you're responding to me like this. And I'm like, I read that and I'm like, you fucking bitch. So I responded and I'm like, hey, Nicole. Or Nicole.
Hey, girl.
It's an N-E.
Hey,
I don't-
you.
Whatever. Hey, lady. I'm like, I guess I should be flattered
Hey,
that
Shanna.
you think.
Hey, Shan.
This is a good time here.
Okay, keep going.
But I said, hey, Nicole, I guess I should be flattered that you think I'm not a real person responding, but I can guarantee you that I am a real human and responding to your questions. You are free to contact the salon again, but they'll send you back to me as I'm the lead trainer for BMS. I started off inside BMS as a student 2 years ago. Everything I said in my previous email is the truth. It's not about how much money you make now. It's about how much you're willing to hustle and grind. Once again, I answered your question
I feel
twice.
like that was really polite.
Oh, this was
better.
This was her fucking response to me. She goes, hi, Anian. I believe what you've said in its entirety, but you haven't addressed my actual question, thus the uncertainty that I was not communicating with a person. So I have filled out the online information and received no response as of yet. I did the online questionnaire 1 to 2 weeks ago. Now that we've cleared that up in some essence, when can I sign up for the soonest convention? Hold your pants, people. She goes, I don't feel the need to explain my work ethic here unless that's part of the criteria for joining BMS. But in short, I've put in shitloads of hours doing what it takes to support myself and an ex-husband who didn't help me in any way for 26 years and built a successful business in a very small town. She goes, that said, I'm interested in furthering my skill set with this method. Might I find out the information I'm seeking?
What's her name?
Nicole.
Nicole what?
I'll pull it up. She goes, well, she wants me to contact her again. I'm like,
No, you get on a call with her, Ani, and you call her out on her bullshit. And if she's willing to budge, then you invite her to one of our classes. If she's not, then BMS is not for her.
Her last name is Aguilar, Aguilar. All
right.
I know is, let me just throw this out there.
She's in pain. You can hear it in the email, though.
Oh,
Despite
for sure.
her douchebag response, people that are in pain, like, they probably need us more than anything. But the thing is we don't have time to babysit. We don't. Mm-hmm. So they have to be able to choose in. So even though she's reaching out to us, because part of how we market is like touching on that pain, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in pain and you can feel it in the email. And like your response was great, but I mean, I kind of want to see what would happen if you got on a conversation.
I'll happily do it.
But at the same time, it's like we can't choose in for you, Christina Aguilera. What's her name?
Nicole
Aguilera. We can't choose in for you. So set aside the ego and know that we're here to help, and we're here to, again, flip the industry on its head, including you who had a divorced asshole husband and whatever it is that you need to support your kids. I can promise you, if you let go of your ego and join us,
Submit to the process,
you'll have fucking results.
Yeah.
And I think what blows my mind is because we actually had an instance inside Mastermind yesterday. We have started training for BMS Convention number 2, and it's 350 artists. And I have pod leaders who are taking care of like all of the students because once again, like these are mandatory assignments. I can only do so much in one day. And all the pod leaders, I told them, reach out to all of your students, make sure they're good to go. They're inside the network. They've ordered the kits. They have the training videos. And one of my pod leaders did exactly that, Brittany Kappas. And she did a great job. One of the students messaged her back and she's like, you don't need to babysit me. I'm like, you will not speak to my fucking trainers like that. So I went right inside the network, inside their pod, and I'm like,
if they're saying that, then they were obviously being babysat.
Yeah. So I went in, I did a live video, and I said, let's just be clear right here and right now. They're doing their job. They're here to help you. They're volunteers for this.
Yeah.
They are not new to the industry. They are not new to the game inside of NBR and BMS, and you will respect them.
Yeah.
I will not have the people like my team disrespected by anyone. And I go, so for those of you who are saying you don't need to be babysat, you know who you are, reel your shit back in. She called the trainer and apologized later.
See, but that's the thing is like sometimes you need to be called out on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure that shit happens all the time in our mastermind, and they might be like, oh, and then they remember if you address it like right out of the gate, they remember, oh yeah, okay, let's let the ego like aside for a second. Okay, yeah, sorry, I obviously did need to be babysat. Thank you for kicking my ass. You
Totally.
know?
We all need that kick in the ass. And it's done with love and for like
loving Swift.
For you to get a better profit, you know?
And that's what it all comes down to. And then so really something I think that's super cool is inside of our BMS classes, we have something inside Mastermind, it's General's Tent, which is where they turn in their numbers every single week. And we actually have the students bring like a partial portion of the General's Tent to their BMS intensive class. I love it. That is one of my favorite things we do because it's so interesting. Before then, I'm like, how do you feel about your numbers? They're like, I make great money. I'm super happy. Everything's fine.
Because to every stylist, their numbers are based on how much they're working behind the chair.
Yeah,
so they're just like, everyone's like, I work all the time. I have a full clientele. I've really built my business up. And I'm like,
I'm tired all the time.
That
I make a lot of money.
I'm tired all the
that
time.
$8 an hour is saying something
Can you
different.
pay your car payment on how baggy your eyes are that day or how bloodshot they are?
I could pay everyone's car payment with these bags.
But then with that, I think it's super cool. So then the very first day, they have to go home. home or go back to their hotel room, they do the assignment of finishing getting their numbers together. And during breakfast the next day, we talk about it and just say, hey, how do you feel about your numbers? Guys, the response is always literally they just go,
it's so quiet and they're all mad. You could see the trainers, we're mowing down our bacon and berries and just like totally fine because we're used to talking about numbers, and they're all like, I can't even eat. I'm so upset. I'm like, can I have your bacon? Are you going to finish that bagel?
How's that marble bread coming? You're done with it? Cool,
I'll take that, thank you.
But it's true. And then they sit there and I'm like, well, what do you not like? And they're like, any of it. I'm like, how do you feel about your $1 per hour? They're like, I'm poor. I had no idea I made such little money. And to me, I see it like click inside their head every single time. Like, oh my God, I am not in the place I actually thought I was.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're in that place, you have to follow it up with like a team that backs you. Like can you imagine I think people don't want to look at their real numbers when they don't have like a tribe or a team, because for me, like if there was times in my career before I like had a team and a tribe, and I'd look at my numbers and I'd be like, I'm fucking out. Like this isn't worth it. And I just go curl up in a ball and cry and eat ice cream. But
I would do that. I'm just like, I'm thinking positive. So I'm positive I'm making money.
Can I pay my mortgage with my happiness? Because I feel like that should be allowed.
See, but it goes both ways. Like
I know.
there's ignoring it and like being like, but look how awesome my Instagram following is. And then there's like facing the other side where I'm like, I'm gonna curl up in a ball. So you can like be like on both ends of the spectrum. But if you have like a team around you that's like, this is where you're at. Mm-hmm. They're not gonna be like, they're not gonna be like, well, bye, and they can't be fakers anymore either. It's like all shit's laid out on the table.
Yeah.
And so it forces people in a real tricky situation where they get nauseous and want to throw up and not eat because they're like, wow, I can't hide from myself anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary place to be. They're like, whoa.
And I like it because you see the shift in them. That's one of my favorite parts of the class is when they do their numbers, and then you see that shift in them, like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And, like, I always feel for the moms that are, like, away from their kids and stuff. And then I know, like, we have a reputation like, oh, you're not allowed to do any other clients. You can only do NVR. But it's when you get clear on your numbers that you're, like, looking at stuff and you won't settle. You're like, if I'm going to be away from my kids and my family, it has to be worth my time.
Right.
So that $15 little boy haircut that takes me 35 minutes because he keeps wiggling his ass in the chair, it's not worth it. But spending 3 hours on an NVR client, like, once you start seeing those numbers, I love when the stylists, like, get that click. Like, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to go. And the actual way for me to get there is, like, get good at NVR, start doing color in NVR only, and then it, like, the natural progression ends up being that you are NVR only, but it starts from knowing your numbers and seeing, like, this haircut, this men's haircut, this root touch-up, like, all of this isn't worth me leaving my family for. And I love when they get that, like, aha moment on their own, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know what I noticed? It was interesting when I first was building my brand. And I remember I like to stalk people, as we all do, and I would, like, call random fancy salons in New York and LA that were just, like, in my eyes, like, top-notch. And I'm, like, asking what their prices were for colors or whatever, and it was like $900. And I was like, oh my God, $900 for a hair color. And so it's interesting because what I had found is when I started adding up my dollars per hour, it was like I was making, over time, I was making as much as, like, the colorists were, like, were charging $900, $1,200 for a cut or color or whatever, you know what I mean? But what it was cool is I realized that having the skill set and the niche of extensions, it didn't matter where I lived. Because in the time I lived in this tiny little corner of Gilbert, Arizona, where you drove past cow farms, and I was making, like, what they said they were charging, $900 for color. When I figured out, like, my dollar amount, I was making that, but it's because I had a niche. And that's when all of a sudden, like, a light bulb went on for me. And this was, like, before I'd launched my online course, and I was like, holy shit. And it's cold in here. I literally, like, had this moment where I'm like, this is a game changer. It's not, you don't have to, and that's why we always promote it, like, don't live in LA and get celebrity pay, because it was true. I was like, if you know how to do marketing and you have this skill set, because it's a niche, you can make this kind of money.
I know.
And this changed the game for me in that moment, because I'm like, you can be Sally from Alabama, you can be Susie from New Jersey, you can be anywhere. And you can make this kind of money, and you no longer have to be like, say, oh, well, I can't charge this because the going rate for a color in my town is $45.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not the case.
It's not the case anymore. And the other thing that's cool with MBR is, like, with other extensions and other methods I had learned, like, I never try to talk bad upon them, but the thing is if I'm an artist and if I'm in a smaller town and I don't have a full running salon and I don't have assistants, It took me literally 7 hours to do like any kind of glue on or single bonded hair extensions. It took 7
your whole damn
hours.
day.
It's my whole damn day. So then I was that stylist that's like, oh, I made $1,200, but it took me all day.
Yeah.
And so people will often say, well, I already do extensions, and I'm doing, I do them a lot. I did like 4 last week, but they didn't tell you they only did 4 clients last week altogether. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, you cannot just say, oh, I already do extensions and I'm making great money. You always have to break it down into that dollar per hour amount.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, if you're only doing 4 extensions the whole month and you're bragging about, oh, I make $1,200, but then you're doing cuts and colors and everything else in between, you're really not making what you think you did. You made $1,200 on 4 clients.
Yeah.
And if you change your whole book of business, where I now do 3 to 4 clients per day, it's a game changer. And then I can choose. I'm like, I want to work 4 days this month, and I'm getting in 15 clients. But then I do the dollar amount, and I'm like, it's plenty.
Works for me.
I like that. I'm going to go to
Done.
travel on these other days, or whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
and something I think that our students see a lot is even, I feel like I just finished talking to one yesterday. It was such a big overwhelm for her. She's like, because her coming to BMS Intensive and she wants to come to BMS Con, it's a stretch for her money-wise. And that happens a lot with our students. And she's like, I don't fucking know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed out. And I'm like, hold on. Reel it back in for a minute. And this is one of the biggest things that actually my ex-fiance taught me. So I took this one. Thank you. But he would always, because I used to be like a super big worrier and a really big stressor. In case you can't tell by my personality now, I like to control everything. So it makes life a little hard when you can't control some shit, let me tell you for sure. But he would say, I'd be so stressed out about something. And he'd go, stop, wait. Is there anything you can do about it? And I'd be like, no, there's nothing I can do. He's like, okay, then why are you worrying? I'm like, well.
That makes it worse.
I'm like, well, can you because there's nothing I can do. He's like, there's nothing you can do. Worrying is not going to make it better.
Right.
Or he'd say, is there anything you can do about it? I'm like, well, yeah, I could do ABC, whatever,
like, then
whatever.
do it.
Yeah, he's like, cool, fucking do it. I'm like, well, okay, when you say it like that, it makes perfect sense.
I'm going.
Yeah.
God, don't push me. But I feel like that really got me out of that headspace of being like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And worrying and being like, okay. And the artist that I talked to inside Mastermind, she was like, I'm super stressed out. I need to pay this money back. I'm like, do you have to pay it back by that time or do you want to? Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you're saying you want to get all these clients by a certain amount of time. Have you had models yet? If not, your very first step.
Yeah.
And so I kind of walked her through it. And by the end, she was like, okay, I see it. I get it now. But I tell people you got to reel it in for just a second sometimes and really be like, where am I going? But it always starts for me with looking at numbers and being like, well, where are you at?
Right.
Where are you actually at today? Where are you realistically, without feelings, without emotions, without stress, put the numbers on paper and look at it and say, this is where I'm at. From there, you can choose where you actually want to go, which is what we do in all of our BMS intensive classes.
And I freaking love that because it's not I really did for the longest time. I just kind of felt like you were just dealt the hand in life. This is the economy that you'll be in. This is your class, and this is where you stay. And just that anyone who had anything, it was because that was the card.
Born into it.
Yes, I honestly did think that. And then to see how much I've grown over the years and that I do have control and I'm changing shit not only for myself and Ryan, but Sawyer and Lennox and then hopefully for their kids and stuff too. I'm like, this shit is so cool. We literally can create whatever the fuck we want to create.
Right.
And that is insane to me and I freaking love it.
Now when I see people that are born into abundance, I'm like, it's really fun to work for it on your own too.
But I feel knowing what you just said, knowing that at the end of the day, whatever it is you want, you create this. That's it. It gives you so much power in life. Because it's not up to Sally down the street. It's not up to my boss. It's not up to where I live, where I was born. Because I'm sure some people could look at you, who you've born and raised inside California, and they're like, oh, she's so lucky. She's born and raised here. But it's what the fuck? You know what I mean?
It's called Murder Valley, guys.
I know. People look at, there's a stigma with Orange County in general. If you're not carrying around your Louis Vuitton bag, you're out. But none of us are even from here, guys. We just moved here to live our best lives.
I was born on a tiny island. I would just like it to be known. And then it's called Puerto Rico. And then I moved here from the Midwest. I was telling Val about shit in the Midwest. What were we just talking?
Your picnic.
Oh, my,
what do they do?
I feel I can't talk
What's
shit.
a weird thing they do there? I want to hear.
I'm about to talk so much shit.
Let's talk about tiny town weird things.
It's a picnic with pig wrestling.
Oh my God.
Let me say this.
You've come so far.
I did not participate in the fucking pig wrestling. I let that be
Ani's
known.
the champ there. I don't know if you know this, but she's the pig wrestling queen for 3 years straight.
I'm offended by this. No, not really. No one believe a single Val. If I could shut off your fucking mic right now, I would. Here's what it is. A friend of mine.
on the pig wrestling.
It was 4 years.
No on the fucking pig wrestling.
I know what I'm getting you for your birthday. Sorry.
A salon pig? Okay, I'll do that.
No, okay, keep going.
Joke's on you, Danielle. So I had a friend call me and tell me that she is not having, some of her in-laws are not going to her wedding because there's this tiny, tiny town in Missouri called Middletown. It's like, there's no even like cell service. It's so fucking bad. I want to kill myself every time I've been there. And she said that her future in-law part of the family isn't going to her wedding because they're going to the Middletown picnic. And
It's the same weekend they picked the picnic over the wedding.
Oh my God.
so
I hear stories like this. I'm like, that doesn't really happen, does it?
it does, and
Okay.
it's even funnier because I was telling Val about this. I'm like, it's not even an actual like picnic. Like I'm gonna call it like, almost like a county fair with no rides, but there is pig wrestling and they throw candy at you from cars. Like that's kind of cool, I guess. But I was like crying, laughing, and I'm like, Val, I didn't come from this town. I lived about an hour and a half away, but I'm like, that's part of the Midwest. So me
Right.
being here in California, Laguna Beach of all places, where even Val was on she ended up on an Instagram thing with like this really big hairstylist, and he's like, where are you guys from? She's like, Laguna, and he's like, oh, Rich, what did he say? He said, oh, rich
pretty girls.
Yep. And we were like,
Thank you. So excited to be here.
but it's shit like that that makes me laugh so hard because not that people haven't seen the journey, but it's been so much from everything in between,
Right.
like the life we have
I bet
now.
people think that my whole hair thing is just like a side hobby.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to live in Orange County and have this side hobby.
You're a kept wife, right? It's
I'm a
fine.
kept wife. I do this for fun, guys.
Yeah, Garrett's handed you everything.
He
You have
has.
not worked for
No.
anything at all.
So before this shit spirals out of control, I feel the need to reel that back
Okay,
in and
reel
let it
that
be
in.
known. No, I don't even care. I think it's hysterical. Let it be known. None of that's true. So for anyone who's ever
Well,
listening to this for the first time,
Here's a little bit of my backstory. I started my brand because I had to sell shit to pay for food to put on my table for my 2 little girls. Garrett competed in the world champion Ironman, and I had to sell his bike for $2,000 to eat that month. We were no longer even paying our bills. It's gotten so bad to the point where I was too proud to go to family, to go on fucking food stamps, and I sold shit to make ends meet. So that's a little bit of my backstory, and yeah, I fucking love Orange County.
Orange County's the best. I think it's great living here. But you know what? I love that now you're so open and honest because people who haven't followed your journey, it's interesting. Even, oh my God, there's a place where we get our green drinks, Nectar, right down the street. The guy's obsessed with Garrett, man. Like every time I go in, he's like, so he asked me once.
Tell me more about their story.
Yes!
I'm like, I don't talk to people at 7 a.m. I'm just get my
I'm
drink.
like, oh,
I'm gonna put my
God.
glasses on. Don't think I'm not friendly.
Well, and he had asked
I'm
me
like, I don't know
once-
who Garrett is. I've never seen him before in my life.
Oh, and I'm not a good liar. I don't lie well. I'm just too I just prefer brutal honesty at this point in my life. But he had said to me, he's like, oh, do you know a guy named Garrett? I'm like, Garrett White? He's like, he's just like a baller, comes in, really wealthy, Lamborghini. I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, yeah, that's my boss, actually. He's like, oh, how do you know him? What's his story? What's Wake Up Worry about? I'm like, oh, fuck.
You're like,
it's-
what's BMS about? You mean? Just
no one cares about worry. It's all about BMS. But it was even in that, I realized like, oh my God, like it's so interesting because he was like, because I explained like in literally 2 sentences what warrior was. And he was like, well, how'd he come up with that? And I'm like, Garrett's life was a shit show. And this is how I'm like framing it out. I'm like, it was a shit show. And his wife, Danielle, who's like my other boss, I'm like this and that. And he's just like, this is amazing. But it blows my mind sometimes that people just assume
right.
you were born and literally landed here in Orange County living this life.
Well, and that's the thing is like even when I teach and when all of us teach, we can kind of like throw down the hammer a little bit because we're not expecting you to do anything that we didn't have to do on our own.
Right.
Like we're just not. We're not like just like preaching fancy principles we learned in hair school. We're like, this is where I came from. This is who I am. And I think that's why our tribe has such a genuine bond is because we're willing to like throw that on the table and be like, you guys, you got this. Like I posted some photo or I shared them with you guys, like some of my first photos from when I started my brand and I thought it was really awesome. And then I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I think sometimes it's important to take a minute and step back in life and realize like when you're on this journey of growth, how far you've actually come and kind of give yourself a little bit of credit and be like, cool. And it kind of fuels you to continue to push forward. And it's just crazy. And you have to like acknowledge the numbers. You have to acknowledge everything in order to like get to that next place in life.
And not only that, Val and I inside of the Mastermind Network yesterday, we did a video on just gratitude. And this whole thing started because I was literally walking down the street to go to Active Culture to get lunch. And as I'm walking back, I'm sitting there like looking at everything around me because the BMS headquarters is literally like right by the ocean. Like it's so beautiful. So is the salon. Like everything's so close to the ocean, like a stone's throw away. And as I'm walking up and down the street, I'm like, this is actually my life. Like I remember being here for the first time, walking up and down like a tourist. Like if you're not watching this live, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com. We actually film it so you can see what I'm doing. But I would like walk up and down the street, like looking left and right, like, oh my God, this place is magical. It's amazing. And not that Laguna or California has lost its magic to me at all, because to me, it's still this like magical, yes, it never goes away. It's still this magical place to me. But even with that, I'm like, holy shit, like you're not the tourist here anymore. This is your life. You live here. And I was just overcome with just so much gratitude for everything inside of my life, like all of our teams, for you guys, like our students, what we're doing. Because I told Alan, like, do you realize that what we're doing now, it's not just here for Michelle. It's not just for Katie. It's not just for Mary. This is literally going to span into their children. We're making the wives and the mom's life better. All the artists that come in, then they're building their marriages even better and stronger, which is bleeding into their kids. Now their kids are seeing that healthy relationship. They're going to grow up and they're going to find a relationship just like the one their parents had, which is super healthy. Then they're going to raise their kids like that. Like what we're doing now is literally spanning like centuries. Like this is going to continue.
I think too, what's cool is like people don't realize the trickle effect.
Yes.
Because it's and I'll share this, and we'll share this all the time in classes. Where like you guys, if you play small, you don't understand by playing small how selfish we're being. Like if you choose to play small, that's your choice. And if you choose to play big, you have to think about like literally generations of who you could affect. And when you think in that span, you're like mind blown. And for me, even when I get in this place where I'm like, I don't care anymore, I'm like, you asshole, Danielle. You know what I mean? I'm like, you can't play small and you can't revert back.
Well, it's not even an option to like even stay where you're at when you're realizing the ripple effect of it. You're like, I can't stay here. Like we're moving forward. And I think that's what I love so much about the tribe is like how much like we're all growing like as our team, but like the tribe keeps me pushing further. Had I not seen like, I loved it and I believed in everything from the beginning, but had I not seen like our very first class getting like all those results, it wouldn't have kept pushing me out of my comfort zone to keep like training and doing more with the program and stuff. So I just think like that having the tribe is so important in your growth. Again, to keep you going.
An army.
Oh yes, the army.
We're the army.
Strong women and a few men.
You know I like that. But I think even like profit wise, like gratitude, like Danielle, like you said, it's such a big thing. And looking back and being like, it's almost like a don't forget where you actually came from. Yeah. Always look back. And I feel like that puts so much into perspective because I'm not going to lie. Monday and a little bit of yesterday, I was not in overwhelm mode, but starting pre-training for 350 people. And then it was to the point where if some people, they would message me inside of Mastermind. If I didn't answer fast enough, they would text me. If I still didn't answer fast enough, they would Instagram me and DM me. And all of a sudden I have multiple messages and I'm sitting there like, oh, fuck, this is a lot. And for a minute, that's why I went to get lunch because I was like, I need to
change of pace, change of scenery.
I need a breath. I just need to take a really deep breath. And then walking back, I'm like, yeah, but look at what you're doing. Look at the impact you're making.
Energized.
Yes, this will literally span generations. One of our students, I won't say her name, but she recently came to one of our boot camps and she was like this close to divorce. Like she was ready. She's like, I can't fucking stand my husband. He's annoying. He's irritating. She messaged Val and I and she said, I want you guys to know everything I learned inside of the BMS boot camp. I came back and started implementing it. My marriage has never been better.
Oh, nice.
We've never been happier, like this and that. And hearing that, I'm just like, this is it.
Right.
This is part of the profit that we see every day. It's knowing we're making such a big difference that will literally continue for generations. Because now her son, their kid, will grow up seeing a mom and dad who loved each other, not like a home where they either fucking fought or ignored each other, or a broken home where they got divorced.
And a lot of that could be due to even financial stress.
Oh,
and when you can flip that card a little bit for somebody too, and then they implement other things like working on a relationship with their spouse, all of a sudden they're like, holy shit.
And again, when you see the results from it, like that's what I told her. I'm like, you're going to go home and you're going to do this. And there's no way you're not going to see like a difference in yourself and your husband. But what's going to make you keep going is you're going to notice your son is going to see that difference and your son's going to respond differently. And you will not stand for your negative behavior or any other negative behavior from that point forward because you'll see that difference. And what other freaking education class like cares not only about like what you're doing with your numbers in your business, but like the balance of your family life, that we're like that invested in care. I'm just like,
well, just because we know like when people are burning out, and that's such a thing for stylists. Like literally, like they can't say no, and they just keep compiling their days, and then all of a sudden they hit this wall. We see it in every single class, and they are like, Danielle, what they look at me like when we do the Q&A, and I'm like, you just need permission to let go.
Yep.
Like you're at a point where you fucking hate your life, your clients, everybody, and guess who created that? You did. And so you know what you need to do. If you need me to give you permission, happy to do so. I need you to raise your prices. I need you to cut back. I need you to find your life back. I need you to have time with your son. If you need permission, I would love to be that. Here you go. There you go.
Done. Absolutely.
Right.
And even then, it's just going forward with our lives are so different. And Val and I were having a huge talk about this. I think it was like yesterday. I don't know. We talked so much at this point, but
all my days blur into one, but I like them.
1 week. It's not a day. Our days is just like one giant week. But this weekend was Mother's Day weekend, which happy Mother's Day, ladies.
Thank
or
you.
This past weekend or whenever they're listening to this. But with that, Val, what was it that you got to do this weekend for Mother's Day?
Oh, we stayed at the Montage.
Which, if you don't know what that is, it's
so bougie of you.
Super bougie. That's where Justin Bieber goes when he comes to Laguna Beach.
We hang out.
I was just meeting up with J Beebs. No big deal.
So you got to stay at the Montage all weekend.
Yeah.
What else? What were you and your husband doing sitting by the pool?
We were booking all our vacations.
Oh, nice.
Like what?
So we booked because every Christmas we go away, just because like I feel like it's the only way that
this year.
it's the only way I can like completely disconnect, because I do love this shit so much. So like even on Mother's Day, I had to turn my phone off because everyone was like messaging me, and I don't want to like not get back to the students and stuff. So I'm like, okay, just turn your phone off because you're not
where are you
being
going?
present.
Where are you going?
We're going to Hawaii for 3 weeks. Oh my God, 3 weeks? That's like a month.
I love it.
Well, because you know how like that weird span, like
How does
right
Ryan
after
do that?
Christmas. Because he works all the time too, so like we just take that one little chunk off.
Okay.
And then we're doing it's our 10-year anniversary this summer, but we'll be at BMS. And Ryan's like, well, are we gonna do anything like on our anniversary? I'm like, no, BMS convention's like really intense. I'll see you when I get back. So we're gonna go to the Cayman Islands for a week for that. And then I booked
when?
In July when we don't have classes.
I know. I'm trying to book my July vacations right now. I'm like,
I think
So
everyone
Ryan was just like on the phone, like booking. He's like, okay, what days don't you have class? Okay, what day? So like he's like, I'm pinning you down now. So we booked the Cayman Islands. We booked Palm Springs for the weekend after convention, just so that because I won't
relax.
see. It's Sawyer's last days of school. Like I'm missing a few things that week, so I'm like, it's okay. We'll go to Palm Springs and celebrate later, guys.
My plan was to check into a different hotel and avoid everyone for 2 days.
That's it. I'm just gonna be passed out under a palm tree there. Don't bother, Mom.
So Cayman Islands, Hawaii, Palm Springs.
And then we did a San Diego one because Lennox's birthday. He's turning 5.
Oh my God, I'm so behind. I can't get Garrett to commit ever. He's so fun.
That's how Ryan's like, you won't commit, so let me get like all this stuff booked. He's like, we're booked on everything. We're going. I'm like, okay.
The money spent, you have to go. Okay, but Val, how does it feel? You just finished telling everyone listening you came from a place called fucking Murder Valley. So how does it feel going from Murder Valley?
I don't know why it makes me laugh every time.
Because look at Val.
Like Murder Valley and like the pig sloshing, I'm never going to look at you guys the same.
I have never wrestled a pig in my life.
I came from Utah. I'm feeling like I'm definitely the least weird now.
Hey, we know all about the Mormons. I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
It's not.
I'm going to get a lot of hate
We're
for
definitely
that
the
one.
weirdest. Sorry.
But Val, how does it feel knowing you came from a place called fucking Murder Valley to now you're sitting at a hotel that literally Justin Bieber goes to, and you booked 3 weeks in Hawaii, a week in the Cayman Islands, a weekend in Palm Springs, San Diego? Like, how does that feel?
Just
because
don't let it feel normal ever.
That's a huge profit to you, though. Like, that's
it is.
insane.
And it's not even like because they are fancy ass vacations, but it's just that I have that time to be able to be with my family, because that is literally the only thing that recharges me. Everyone has their thing. I need like crazy quality time, and I'm not just like, oh, I want like 5 minutes of undivided attention. Apparently I'm needy as fuck. Like I'm like, I need a whole
need
day
time.
And I need like the phones put away. I need like everyone like super present, and that is how I recharge, so that I like have the time to do all of this and have this amazing family time and like build these memories. You know, the mom guilt is real.
It's real.
And when you're working and stuff, I beat myself up a lot. Like, oh, I'm missing so much. But then I'm like, oh, fuck that. We're taking them to the Montage. Oh, they're going to Hawaii. These kids are going to turn out just fine. Like,
I mean,
it's true though. It's quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
So
And it's to the point where the life that really all of us are leading, it's not, I feel like at one point in our lives, it's something that we wished for, like, oh, it'd be so cool if I could take my kids to Hawaii. It'd be so cool if I could do that, if we could do this. And it's not even like, wow, look how great our lives are. That's not what this conversation's going to. It's more
I feel like it is, but I like it.
I mean, and it's not to like throw it in anyone's face, because I'm sure someone's going to listen to this. They're going to be triggered as fuck. Like, oh, look at the Orange County bougie bitches throwing this shit in our face. But it's, we've bled for this. We have worked like skin and bone to be where we are. And now Val is seeing the profits of that. Danielle is, I am. And it's, how does it feel knowing you have a life that at one point you wished for, and you're literally like living that life now?
I'm really proud. Like, I can like look at my kids and I'm like proud, and I like when I hear like, especially Sawyer, it's just different when you have like a daughter, and I hear like the stuff that she says to like her friends when she's proud of me, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But I'm proud of me. I'm proud of what I'm doing. We ran into some friends at the hotel over the weekend, and Ryan was like, I overheard Ryan like talking and like bragging about me to like a guy, and I was like, that's so cool, because you know, sometimes you get like in the groove of things and he doesn't like say it to me as much. I know he's crazy proud of like my growth, but we all know I'm weird with compliments, so he's easy to give me them because he doesn't want me turning all weird. But it was just cool to like hear him like say those things, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm proud of like what I'm doing, and I'm glad that I'm making my family proud as well.
I think it's like when you're in it, you kind of downplay it. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like when somebody like says it, you're like, oh, stop. But then you're kind of like have this moment where you're like, yeah,
good for us.
Yeah,
go Plunk family. We're doing shit, guys.
I'm proud of you, Val, if that counts for anything. But Danielle, so we're coming down to our last like few minutes. So how does it feel? A huge profit for you is you literally started this entire revolution, everything that's changed.
I think like what I keep feeling like the message I should kind of share or like even wrap up with is like, try not to look at like accomplishing everything overnight, and just have the guts to go and just have that shift where you're like, I know this will work. Because there was so many times in my journey where I was like, I wanted to quit because things got tough. And I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, and I would go to this weird phase of like, I should just be grateful for my 2 healthy kids and a husband that loves me. And that is such a bullshit story. If you want to create a new story for yourself, you have to commit it. And you can't just say something like, it's great to be grateful for where you're at, but also aspire to grow to the next level. And don't say, I should just stay here and be grateful for what I have. Because to me, that's playing small.
Agreed.
So I just think whatever you choose to do, take it in baby steps, and just all you have to do, because like I said, I get overwhelmed with details a lot of times. And so we'll have students, again, they come to the classes and they want that playbook, and they want to be like, how do I achieve what you've achieved, you know? And I'm like, don't get overwhelmed. You can see them almost kind of like shutting down. And you're like, you just have to be like willing to go. And I'm kind of a quick start personality. Like, I don't need to hear all the details. I just kind of like want to go. And so it's like you just have to kind of like jump into it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm here. And then jump into it, and you're like, okay, I'm here. And then all of a sudden, like I said, a year time goes by, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad I didn't stay here. Look what was possible. And that should really drive you to really achieve like the next level in your life at all times. And maybe it's even like maybe you are making great money, but maybe your goal is like, well, what if I could make great money just 3 or 4 days a week, and then I had great family time?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like all about kind of like creating that balance and just kind of aspiring or creating your own story. And we say that all the time, and it sounds so cheesy, but I guess I've had moments in my life where I didn't give up because I knew the magnitude of the people that it would affect. And I was like, I can't play small. Like, I know. And I think when there was like this year where like, I literally almost shut it down like 7 times. You guys know, like I was stagnant for like a good year. I was like, I don't know, I'm just going to do hair. I'm going to be a lover of the art, I guess. I should just be grateful for the art. Like it's fun. I should just be happy that I'm giving people beautiful hair. I should just settle with that. You know, and I'm like, I can't do that. And I'm so stubborn, and I just kept holding on and holding on and holding on. And then I just finally, like with Garrett, he's the owner of our education, and then I'm like the salon owner, and I finally was like, we're fucking doing this. Like, you have these moments in life where it's like you get to choose, and if you stay on limbo for so long, you'll be stagnant for years and years and years, and you just have to make a choice. And so make a choice today, and it doesn't have to be huge, but take those baby steps to get to where you want to go. And if you're stagnant, make another choice. So I'm going to leave it with that today, as
I like it.
The goal is make a choice.
Beautiful. So thank you guys once again for tuning in to episode number 20. And we will be back next week with episode 21 to discuss my favorite topic, protection. And we got some fun stories for you guys. So see you then.